How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing okay. Just got my two issues of my latest article out in Audio Express.
Ooh, cool.
It was a review of the Danville processor that I use. I'm working on something now that's going to probably get me killed.
Oh,
I'm doing some comparisons. I've got some high quality vinyl recordings.
mm-hmm.
I also have the digital files, and I've had people come over and do a comparison. And at the end, I asked them to compare them on a scale of 0 to 100%, 0 being they don't even sound the same, 100% that they sound identical. And so far, people have been in the range of 90 to 100% that they sound the same.
Mm.
Now, not trying to get them to identify which is, vinyl and which is digital because of the noise, obviously, for vinyl.
Mm.
But I'm asking them to do the impossible, which is put aside all their biases and, just listen to the music,
Mm.
the timbre, the dynamics, all that, all the characteristics of the music and see how close they are together. Yeah, I'm going to get a lot of pushback on this.
Oh,
Well, some of it rightfully so because it's not double blind, but I don't know how you do a double blind, something like this.
mm. Yeah, it would be a little tricky, that's for sure.
Yeah, because you've got surface noise, ticks, pops, on the vinyl.
Mm.
So I've done enough double blind tests to know that that would be an impossible task. In the article, I would be saying, though, that, take it with a grain of salt because there are definitely listener biases, as you know.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
but it's interesting. A lot of people are trying to put aside their preferences for vinyl or digital.
Mm.
And what's also interesting is the different recordings will get different ratings depending on the recording.
Yeah.
Is it a pop recording? Is it a classical? Is it jazz? And
Mm.
different people will say, well, they're closer or farther apart. And it seems sometimes it depends on their preference for music.
Mm. Yeah.
So there are lots of things in it to say, don't run down the bank with this, article, but it's interesting. Everybody who's done it has really had a good time. They said they really enjoyed it, and they really learned a lot too.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's like way back in the day, we had the opportunity to record Ben Zander and the Philharmonic doing the Mahler Second in Symphony Hall.
Hmm.
And they threw it open to anybody who wanted to hang mics or set up mics. So there were about 10 or 15 folks there doing stuff, including, I think somebody did have a digital machine. I forget exactly all the details. But getting back to the playback that we had in a location out in Waltham, Mass, uh, it was funny. Ben Zander said, I never realized how different microphone placement or how critical microphone placement is because they all sounded different, and
Absolutely.
it was just different mic placements.
I go down to the Philadelphia Orchestra quite often. In fact, I'll be there in March for Mahler's Second, which is my favorite piece of music of
Yeah,
all
it's
time.
it's a masterful piece, that's for sure.
And but it's interesting because for different times, I pick different seats, and just the positioning of the seats in the hall makes a huge
Oh
difference.
yeah.
So when people tell me, well, I want it to sound like the original performance, I said, where in the original performance?
Yeah. Yeah, that's either you do it adequately and then add your chamber on afterwards.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
Yeah, right.
Getting a whole orchestra and an anechoic chamber.
Yeah. Well, the big problem there is they probably couldn't hear each other. That was something that was pointed
Yep.
out at a symposium kind of we had a number of years ago that I was in. I was actually videotaping it, and unfortunately, somebody on the panel wasn't happy with it or something and didn't want to have it released. So as far as I know, it's still bottled up somewhere. But it had one of the conductors that I've worked with, Jonathan McPhee. It had Leo Baranek on it. It had
Yeah.
a number of other people. And it was just kind of interesting as Leo went through some of this stuff that, that they had the guy who also is one of Leo's proteges who designed the Schemmerhorn Hall in Nashville. And they were talking about some of the layouts of the various halls. And the interesting part of it is, yeah, they will sound good if you set it up or build it in such a way that not only does it project well into the audience, but the orchestra players have to be able to hear each other in order to stay in sync.
Sure.
And that was a critical issue that kind of surfaced along the way. That wow, we got to worry about that, don't we?
Well, I don't know if you ever saw my article that I did on room treatment, but if you look behind me, you can see I have substantial amount of room treatment in this room because I don't have a big concert hall, and I couldn't afford Leo Burnett when he was still alive to come in and do something.
Yeah.
But I did the second best thing. I took the architectural drawings of the room, and I marked up on the drawings the position of the speakers and the furniture and everything. And I sent it off to Anthony Gramani at Sonitus USA. And he told me, well, these are the treatments you need, and this is where you need to put them. So I got them and I put them in place, and it's really, really made a huge difference.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, this is the 500 or 1,000-pound elephant in the room for everybody's listening system. Is the room.
Yeah, I started off my article that, everybody talks about the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and in audio, the 800-pound gorilla is the room.
Yeah, yeah. What was crazy, I way back in the day, I worked for a company that sold and installed stereo systems that kind of became legendary in the day, the Audio Lab in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I had to install a system. Somebody had bought some AR2s, I think they were. Or no, they had bought a new receiver. And they were up in New Hampshire, so I was the installation guy. So I drove up, got into the place, and got everything all set up, put in the new receiver, and got it all connected and so forth. The house was a very modern layout, and the speakers weren't even arrayed in such a way that there was a stereo image. There was one in a hallway and one in the room where the system was, and yet it was just astonishing how good those speakers sounded in that environment. And the AR2A at the time had some concerns about the way it performed, but it still was, the first time I heard them where they really sounded incredibly good. And it was just an oddball location situation, I think, in the room that happened to work for presenting these in the best light possible.
Yeah. I had a friend who lived in Long Island, and I forgot who it was, somebody who made one of the first subwoofers, came out to his house and said, "Do you want to sell your house?" Because his room was great. And he didn't, it wasn't made that way. He just happened to luck out.
Yeah.
Whoever's speaking, you have two microphones. There's an echo.
Huh. It may be me. I have.
No, it was
Tom?
Tom, yeah.
I think Alan is picking up what I'm saying.
That may
Oh,
be
is that it?
part of
Okay.
I can back down a little here. Of course, then I can't hear anything. Somebody
Is
talk.
that any better now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can just barely hear you. I have a couple of small Altec Lansing, they're computer speakers, basically a tweeter mid-range and the subwoofer is somewhere underneath the cabinetry here. And I can adjust the volume on it, but it is split on both sides of the screen. So it may be, and the actual mic pickup probably is going through my Logitech.
Well, whatever it is, it sounds fine now.
Okay, Ken Swartz, who's our president, has asked me to sit in. And as we all know, Ken does an excellent job of emceeing, so I won't promise you his level. But anyway, welcome to the Billerica Public Library. It's our first meeting ever held at the library. And we've been warned already a couple of times about volume. Really? So yes, they've come in twice to tell us to cut it down. I don't know where they got the idea that you'll be loud. So,
And they come in and go,
so I put tape on the door because it was locking, but locking in the sense that we couldn't go out or come in if no one pushed it from the inside. But anyway, it's the first time, few of the trials and errors. And as we all know, we have a fabulous company, Lenard Audio, and they're out of another part of the world called Australia, which is exactly 10,000 miles from Boston.
I'm not actually sure. I would
Yeah.
think in kilometres. So,
Oh,
so that would be 30,000 kilometres. If it was
30,000 kilometers for all of you Australians that are
not quite,
listening.
not quite, but
Whatever.
a long way. A long way.
Anyway,
That would take us back to Boston, so it's a little less than that.
so the point is that Neil, that's her abbreviation for her real name, which I'll get to, but Neil had 3 systems that she was going to set up. But I said our room can only accommodate maximum 12 people. And so she pared it down to 2 handsome loudspeakers, self-powered. And she will obviously introduce those appropriately. Anyway, how do you pronounce your name?
My full name is Phaenelagh.
Phaenelagh, that sounds easy. It just looks spelling strange.
Yes.
Phaenelagh Burnett.
It's unique. The spelling is unique.
Okay. Is the daughter of the designer of the products you're about to see, Lenard Audio. It is an esteemed electro-acoustic research, design, and consulting company specializing in product development, audio standardization, and audio education. Their expertise lies in ensuring the consistent replication of sound and music across all dynamic ranges, and that last part's a hard one, and audio platforms. Lenard Audio is recognized as the leading audio company in Australia. And if you go to their website, which is you can pick up from our website, you can see their emphasis is not just on their product, but on establishing quality sound and standards for reproducing quality sounds. And that's what attracted me, because the standards are all over the board. And throughout their website, they talk about playing music at realistic levels. That's my introduction, and I will have open forum.
because everybody's already a member, right? I asked Al to ask at the beginning of every meeting, is anybody here that has been to a BAS meeting before? Well, there is somebody, but the idea is that I give them a copy of the speaker and an application.
We can't hear the speaker.
Can you hear us?
No.
Very muddled.
Yes, you need to talk out too. I know this. So just,
Because the other item is a new issue of the BAS speaker has been published. So that will be coming out shortly. I'm keeping to a schedule of every 3 months. So that's successful. They're not very large issues, but at least they're coming out on time. One of the interesting things is some reminiscences by Tom Holman of his days at Advent. And he has some really good stories to tell about things that happened there at Advent Sound in Boston. Otherwise, that's all for now. Anything else?
I have something.
More open forum?
Hi, I'm Mike Krasner. I guess I haven't been to a meeting. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we hear you remotely.
Oh, okay. Somebody else I got confused. Okay. Haven't been to meetings in a lot of years, but I have some speakers and that I wanted to give away. And I wrote to Ken and Alvin, and they suggested I come to the open forum and see if anybody was interested. So they're from the 60s. I bought them in the 70s used. a pair of Bozak Symphony B4000 modern speakers. They're like half the size of a concert grand, basically. Two woofers, a mid-range, four tweeters. They're they're 60 years old. The cabinets have little, not in not in great perfect condition. They sound okay. I hooked them up. I haven't used them in a long time, but I hooked them up and they sound okay. Um, um, I'm sure the crossover capacitors need changing at this point because they go bad. And basically, I'm looking for, rather than trying to sell them on eBay or something like that, I'd much rather find an local audiophile who actually has heard of Rudy Bozak and might appreciate them and want to fix them up and would enjoy them. And as I said, I'll give them away.
We should write it up and we can put it in the speakers if a for sale item.
Oh, okay. If anybody's interested that's here, just send me an email and I guess you can see my name, Mike Krasner, and my email is mike@krasner.com.
Put it in the chat.
Put it in the chat. I can do that.
Mike,
Everybody
Okay.
can see it.
Mike, an
Yes.
interesting aside on Bozak's, I also had a pair of symphonies back in the day. And in my latest article in Audio Express, where I'm reported on the Danville processor, I mentioned that my first foray into electronic control of audio was the Bozak N106A crossover 6 dB per octave that allowed you to biamp the speakers. And if anybody's interested in those drivers in there, the B199 woofer, I took one of those over one time to a friend of mine who worked at Jensen at the time, and they tested it, and on axis, it was flat all the way out to 4 kilohertz. Now, obviously, when you got off axis, you would get beaming, but that felted paper cone really kept a lot of the problems under control. So it was, for the day, it was good. Obviously, there are things that are better now, but it was pretty interesting. And I used to live right around the corner from Bozak in Connecticut. One other thing, since nobody else is talking right now, and I have been known to be a motor mouth, I had a successful get together with at Capitol Audio Fest with Edgar Terrari from Bach. I had talked to him at Expona, and we were trying to set up a meeting. It never really happened, so I pinned him down at CAF, and I will be going out to his lab in Princeton on December the 11th, and hopefully after that meeting, I'll have a little bit more I can speak to regarding crosstalk cancellation in the box system.
More open forum?
Yeah, I have something that struck me recently. I happen to be one of the people that donates money to GBH, so I get newsletters and so forth from them. And I got a notification there's a new service they're providing called NPR Plus, and they're bringing back Ray Magliozzi for sessions of Car Talk. His brother Tom died a number of years ago, so the dynamic duo isn't there. So I'm not sure what they're cooking up, but for the first time in more than 10 years, Car Talk is back with new bonus episodes. You'll even hear new listener calls with Ray Magliozzi. Yes, that Ray of Clack from Click and Clack. And the episodes are only on NPR Plus. Now, to figure out what that is, apparently you have to make some kind of ongoing monthly donation of a certain amount in order to get NPR Plus. It's a premium bundle or something like that. It comes with a GBH Super Bundle, according to what I printed out. And I'm not sure what it requires or how you get it, but I think it does require, a monthly donation. I don't think it's a lot, but it would certainly probably help them, although they're probably not hurting as bad as some of the other public radio stations are with the clawback of funding for public broadcasting. Also, I stumbled on an article the other day that they may have linked tinnitus to a major body function, which we all use daily. But they're finding that if you have insomnia or you don't get enough proper sleep, it can cause tinnitus to occur, ringing in the ears, and they seem to feed off each other. So one bothers you enough that you can't sleep, and that makes it worse. So it's research that's been done. Where was it here? I think it was over in Oxford. Let's see if I can pull it up quick. University of Oxford in the UK.
Could you speak up a little more? We can't hear you.
The University of Oxford did it in the UK.
So the solution is?
Get better sleep. And it probably, depending upon what you have for insomnia issues, I mean, sleeping pills, melatonin, get to bed early, or whatever. But they're still digging, but there seems to be a direct correlation between the two. So the article is available. Where did I look it up here? IDR. I don't know. It's in Science. The article is titled "Scientists Just Linked Tinnitus to a Major Body Function. You use it daily without realizing it." So if you search for that, you're liable to come up with it. I can put the link up if I can generate it or type it across. Yeah, it's one of these bazillion long links.
Alan, when you turn away, we can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's because the mic is pretty specific. I've got another computer on my right here. So that's what I've got it pulled up. But I'll see if I can transfer the link and get it up on the chat line, because it's one of these endless links. But that's pretty much it for me.
Almost every day I get spam email on curing a whole host of medical problems, including tinnitus.
Right now I'm reading a book on sleep. It's available, at least in New Hampshire, you can get it as a free download from nh.lib.overdrive. And I'm sure it covers everything of that. It may not be the latest information, but it's a very thorough book.
Does anyone see the raise-hand symbol on my upper left corner? It works.
Oh,
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
so
Okay. My open forum item is Floyd Tool's new book, Sound Reproduction and Everything, for the fourth edition is out now. You can get it on Amazon. Anybody know that?
I
Anyway.
saw the notice, but I haven't ordered mine yet.
It's good and it's big.
Gary, I will confess that in the email from Audio Voice, or is it Audio File Voice? I'm not sure. It's the email banner of Audio Express, I believe.
Audio Express, yeah.
I saw the announcement and inclusion of your article on image model theory.
Yes.
And again, for the, I think, third time, I've been reading it and thinking about it, and I haven't quite figured out how to use it, because there's an image in it that stops me. It's an image of the speakers and all the reflections. And if you think of moving your primary speakers around, those reflections, they dance. And that gets in my way of figuring out how to use it.
Put your
So-
main speakers, if you're a stereo pair, put them 1/4 of the room width in from the side walls and the same distance out from the front wall.
I
You
saw,
probably
and
don't have the.
that
Go
makes
ahead.
a regular symmetrical. I want to say a shape like polyhedron or something, but that's the wrong word. I can't think of the right word, but that makes things add up all the same because it's a quarter and a quarter. And that seems problematical to me. I don't know. Anyway, I'm trying to digest it. So
Well, thank you very much.
You'll have to bear with me as I try and figure it out and use it.
All right. Send me an email.
Also, by the way, I looked this up once. I hope I was right. I believe it's pronounced tinnitus.
There's two ways. Either way, tinnitus or tinnitus. Either one is correct.
When I looked it up, I only had one result.
I
Tinnitus.
was watching an episode of This Old House, and they had a hearing doctor talking about hearing, and he says tinnitus or tinnitus. Talking about hearing protection.
I suffer from it.
Most of us do.
Sometimes it sort of comes and goes. And
Is it affected by noise exposure?
I think it might be caused by noise exposure. Whether it comes and goes, depending on noise exposure, I'm not sure.
That's nice.
But it does, I hesitate to say this, it depends on what you're doing with your face. Hey, I'm telling you, if you grab the back of your ear very strongly and you pull very strongly to the point of pain, it changes my tinnitus. It changes to learn. Okay. If I move my jaw side to side very strongly, or pull my nose, if I deform my facial, and maybe it's my skull, I don't know, it changes. Because I'm looking for a cure, hey?
I can remember way back in the day, Ira Leonard had come up with, he worked for the FDC.
Speak up, please.
And he came up with a technique where you put your finger like this on your ear and you tap it hard like this, and that will help if you have ringing in your ears, supposedly. And I've seen it written up elsewhere in other places.
I've been trying to figure out, maybe this is vain, I don't know, whether it's like a old age deformation of your skull stretching the auditory nerve or something like that, because like Ira's thing, when I push, when I twist, it changes. And I can reduce it somehow. Anybody else? Open forum.
I think we're done.
Yeah, I just checked dictionary.com and they have an actual pronunciation, and they're calling it tinnitus with the accent on the second syllable. So, but it's, yeah, I've heard it both ways. Probably the Brits spell it different. Hey, maybe you folks down in Australia pronounce it differently too. I don't know.
I am keeping out of this stuff. That is
A diplomat, I can tell.
Take a vote.
Okay, if there's no more open forum, I've already introduced Bill, and floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, if we bring the presentation up.
Yes. Right. Great hearing.
Yeah. Okay. Sure, if there's an ideal spot for me. Will the camera reach? So, well, hopefully, hello everyone. All right. And so the slides. How do we bring those up for everyone?
So yeah.
Yeah, there's no option here to allow. So it's saying that if the host, so this laptop isn't the host?
I think Ken is the host. And he's not here.
This Ken?
He's the one that usually.
Who started the meeting?
It was already in session when I logged in. I thought Ken had it running already. Yeah, Ken set it up.
Yeah. So is that meaning that you're not able to see the presentation slide decks when we put that on screen.
Well, turn the camera there. We'll see it in your window.
Or you can,
Yeah, that'd be hard to see.
Is this presentation only on this laptop?
Yes. Yeah.
So we can't make it a link that people can go fetch or share.
unless you send file links, everybody can look at the file there. And
No.
Yeah.
Why don't you aim the camera at the screen and then we'll pin that screen to full screen?
see if you can do that.
We can try that, except the moment I start talking, unless we just turn it off following the voice.
And does it have something to do with speaker view?
Yeah, so it's following where it's hearing the sound coming from.
No, it will. I mean, the camera is separate from the mic right now. The mic is in the laptop.
Okay.
I'll try that.
Otherwise, it is. Are we able to move the camera
Yeah,
down?
it's getting there. Just
It's back.
yeah.
All right.
What are you seeing now? I can't see the camera output. So.
You're a little slightly too close. Just back off
Okay.
a bit. Yeah.
How's that?
Good.
Okay.
Tell you what, if I put this one up, then if you can see all of the text on there, then we're in a good position.
No.
Back up just a slight amount.
Yeah.
I get it.
That's it.
Okay, lovely. All right. Okay, is everybody able to see that now? Okay.
Text is kind of washed up here. All right.
Yeah,
The shades don't go down any further, just pretend.
no, that's okay. Okay, well, we'll work with what we've got now. We'll move on. All right, so this slide. Thank you. First of all, thank you all very much for having me today. It's really a pleasure to be able to talk to you all about Leonard Audio, and also, but most importantly, about what our mission is and what we're aiming for with the standard. So what I've focused on today is what I refer to as the case for standards. What I'm actually referring to in regards to standards, or what myself and my father are referring to, is standards in relation to hardware design and manufacture. So this is very different to, say, the standards that SAE might be looking at developing, or areas of how you would engineer things, or the way that certain other equipment in environments are set up. What this is really related to is just how do you enable seamless integration across all audio platforms and in all environments. That's really what this is about. So just a quick little background before I get into that, just for those of you that may not have had a chance to have a very quick squiz at our website yet. We are an Australian audio design company. My father is the lead designer. He has been designing audio equipment, and Leonard started before I was born. So this is something that I've been passionate about literally since I was born. In the very early days, Leonard was the #1 name in Australia for guitar amps and concert PA stacks. So that's really where the origins of Leonard started. There were a lot of big touring bands that were exposed to the Leonard brand early on, and what we were doing very early on, it was mostly quad boxes, guitar amps, and they were all valve driven or tube driven predominantly in the early days. As most of you will no doubt know, through the decades, mostly around the 70s and 80s, there were big shifts in the industry. When Marshall and Fender in particular started getting into the market, they, like the nature of it, this is not saying that it was deliberate by any means on behalf of companies like Marshall or Fender, but simply the nature of companies of that scale and the way that the distribution for the gear of, that kind of gear or that scale of gear was managed. All of the small operators or the local manufacturers in Australia were pushed out of the market brutally. the mafia doesn't only run the music production side, as many of you may be aware of. The sound reinforcement area is another, and the promotion area is have definitely had their fair share of mafia influence over the decades. And from what I understand, there's still elements of it existing, even if that side of the mafia is turned into geeky tech bros. But the behaviour still abounds, as we know. So we mere mortals do our best to make the most of the situation and what we're allowed to push through under the circumstances. And those of us that have the grit just keep at it for as long as we're alive. So that's definitely the case with us. My father has dedicated his life to what we refer to as the mission, which is basically that all sound and music be heard in full fidelity, and I'll explain what we mean by that shortly, and for audiences to experience exactly what the creators intended, particularly this being consistently and seamlessly integrated across all platforms and environments. So when we refer to what the creators intended, I know that this is very much a buzz term these days. Most or quite a few audio companies are using that terminology. I will delve into a little bit more of what we mean by that shortly as I get into the rest of the discussion, and also the full fidelity. I won't go into the manifesto. That's just there, so you've got access to that when I send the slides out. You'll obviously be able to get a copy of the slide deck afterwards. I am guessing that since everybody sounded like they were familiar with Floyd Tool, would definitely be aware of the audio circle of confusion. So luckily that means I won't need to delve into too much of an explanation of this, but this really is at the core of why standards are so necessary. Yeah, I think that's enough said on that. If everyone's familiar with the concept, then I can move on to explaining the audio paradox. Now, I would expect that different people might have a different concept of what the audio paradox is. From our perspective, this basically relates to a neutral sound system can only be defined by its ability to reproduce that which is not neutral. So, in a bit more detail, as we understand, the intention is that a perfect sound system can be defined by analysis. So we tend to love our graphs and our measurements and our charts and, setting up microphones and placing them in certain positions and trying to get it, looking at the outputs and algorithms and trying to leverage maths to tell us what a perfect sound system actually is. Yet we haven't actually defined what the outcome is supposed to be. What do we actually mean by a perfect sound system? So we do all these measurements. There's an entire industry of people out there reviewing audio gear, reviewing music, reviewing, loudspeakers, reviewing whole systems, but nobody's defining what they're reviewing them against. What's their reference? What do all of the reviews mean? What's the analysis in relation to? That has not yet been defined.
Do some of these people say the live event is the reference?
In principle, from an industry perspective, there may be individuals that might think of what the reference is. But what we've found in the industry over the decades is that it tends to be, like, as an example, when you are advertising your system or your loudspeaker, you're expected to have graphs with it, and the graphs are meant to show a flat response. When is nature flat? Right, so there's all of these ways that we think we're defining what a system should, or how that should be analysed, but this is the point. There's no consensus across the industry. Individuals, like I said, may definitely have their own concept. Like when we've had a couple of our systems reviewed, one of our systems, the reviewer very particularly was reviewing against other systems he's heard. And that's all he could do. Is how does this make him feel, or how is he able to experience what he expects he should hear in that recording from one system to another? And I think that's probably the most common, is reviewers will end up with a recording that they're most familiar with, and then they just measure one system against the other by how they think that system performed for that particular track. The problem, of course, is we're then back to the circle of confusion. So it results in trying to use analysis to define something that has no reference for its definition. Therefore, our proposal is the reference for a sound system's performance can only be against its ability to faithfully recreate the original sound as it was being created. And that, therefore, becomes its neutrality.
So ideally, if the speaker weren't there, we could replace it by the orchestra or the quartet.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. And, you know, everything should be about the system not being there. What do you have to do to eliminate the equipment from the equation? We know that the paradox is, you know, in order to, you have to, every time you amplify the sound, you are inherently changing it. So, you know, we can talk about transparent sound systems and neutral sound systems, and we know that it's a paradox to say that we have a neutral sound system because the fact that you're amplifying the sound is changing it. It's no longer fully transparent. So the question then comes about the attainment to transparency. We know that the ultimate goal should be how we hear sound in the natural world. Everything we do in between that is about attaining to as close to sound in nature as we can possibly achieve. So the case for audio standards, and we abbreviate that as the standards that we have proposed, LAAS, is one, aligns the audio industry with the creative arts to achieve its purpose. This is really the primary outcome. This is really the main reason that standards should exist, so that artists have a level of confidence that how their art is going to be experienced is the way they intended it to. If you think about this in relation to a painting, all right, let's take a Monet or a Van Gogh, and you go into the Met in New York or MoMA in New York, and there's this spectacular painting. The original painting is up there on the wall, but the curators of the gallery have decided that no, they want to shine purple light onto that painting, or they're going to put a curtain in front of it, or they've decided that no, you can only look at it through particular kinds of glasses, or they've put it behind these particular walls that change the way that painting is experienced. Every aspect of audio today is doing that in one way or another. So as the artist, like as a painter, you would expect that you put your painting on a canvas, people have eyes, they are able to see that. In good enough lighting, that's what they are going to see. They are going to clearly see exactly what you put down on that canvas. Musicians, on the other hand, they have absolutely no control over how what they have created is going to be experienced. First of all, you've got all of the equipment that it's recorded on. You've then got the way that the engineers are mixing it. You've then got the equipment or the systems that they're mixing it through, which taint the sound. They impact the sound through those monitors that they're using to do the mixing. That then is reinforced through the mastering process, often, you know, tenfold in comparison to the mixing process. Then anywhere that music is going to be listened to, it is also listened to on something that sounds completely different to anything else it's going to be listened to on. In every environment, every platform, like if you're listening to it on headphones, it's going to sound significantly different than if you were listening to it on an active system or in a large concert PA or on a nice hi-fi stereo in your home. Every single step is different. Number two is that the standard would provide a necessary framework for that consistency. And number three, it will ensure that the artist's creative intent is preserved. So they're the primary reasons that we believe standards are absolutely mandatory. Now, just a little bit of interesting information here. We have done our best over the years to get AES to engage with us on this, and to this date, they have not done so. We seem to be blocked. We've submitted papers. We have talked to as many people in the AES as we can. Every now and then we'll come across somebody in the AES that says, yes, I totally understand and I agree and I'll move this conversation forward. And then the conversation doesn't go any further forward. And this has been going on for about 3 decades now.
I don't recall the question being put forward.
We have been dealing with particularly Richard Cabot and the standards guys, and I've spoken to 2 presidents who have attempted to get this platformed, and we just haven't had any uptake yet. But having said that, I do completely understand that the AES may not be necessarily focused, or their focus is very different to what we are focusing on, because what this is focusing on is how you get the hardware right first. You have to get the hardware right first. You have to think about the loudspeakers and the sound system as an extension of the musical instruments. They are musical instruments basically in and of themselves. They need to be treated as part of that process, part of the band, part of the orchestra. And therefore, you know, when we're focused on the way that we're dealing with the hardware, that way we can then integrate that into the artistic expression. But the point of the word standards is that needs to be consistent in the same way that violins need to be consistent with each other. Otherwise, they're not violins. They have to adhere to standards of what the design of a violin is. Right? So loudspeakers should behave the same, is our proposition. The why, as we've said, to achieve consistency, accuracy, and better sound quality across all platforms and environments, enabling seamless integration. You will hear me say this a few times. Hopefully you'll remember it. I won't test you on this point at the end. It's okay. The how is by creating a rating and measurement structure that identifies the system's ability to achieve fundamental attributes. Those attributes are to represent how we hear sound in the natural world, and I'll cover those in a moment. And the intention, or the what, is to set the benchmark for sound systems to attain to transparency or neutrality. Those words will be interchangeable in this conversation. So that should be the core function. Now, that's not to say at all, I should point out here, that there is not room for artistic creativity in sound design. Absolutely. The industry should knock itself out on all the ways that they want to, design a system for any particular sound, or to achieve anything in particular. I mean, that's what a lot of the equipment and so on is actually attaining to already. We don't see what we do as having any direct impact on, say, the audiophile market necessarily. In fact, we see setting a set of standards would only assist and promote the audiophile world and advance it into the next generations more so. But there's definitely room for having standards, and then once you've got the standards, you can then create from that, as long as there's an agreement to what the benchmark of transparency should be.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Well, we hear you remotely. We lost the
we
conference.
lost John Ginlian. John's gone completely offline. He isn't on the system anymore, from what I'm seeing. They
It
lost
does
the
appear
connection.
that he dropped out.
Somebody
Well,
get Al
maybe-
Foster's number and can call him and let him know what's going on.
Maybe the mice can talk among ourselves.
I thought that's quite an ambitious goal to make the sound system completely neutral. I have never been in a situation listening to a recorded system where I thought I was in a symphony hall.
It's kind of what my article was all about, and I would like to take a whack at the answers to her proposals on standards.
I commented a few meetings ago that I was walking through an airport. I was a few hundred feet from the gate, and I heard a pianist, and I immediately knew it was a live pianist. The acoustics were terrible, yet I could tell immediately that it was live, not recorded. So there's something about the dynamics that, and another time I was in the New York subway system, and there was a small performance going on at the 1,000 feet away, and it was clear that it was live. Now,
It was in a real acoustic space,
yeah,
not a reproduced space by a couple of speakers.
hmm
Basically, what we've got to do is ask ourselves what qualities of sound are audible.
I want to interrupt for a second. I did call Al, and he is aware that they have disappeared, so he's going to work on it.
Okay. So the question is, do any of the speaker systems you've worked with, including the highest end speaker systems, have they ever fooled you into thinking there was an orchestra behind the curtain?
I'd like to answer that. I've had a lot of people come over listening to the system, and I've reported this in a couple of Audio Express articles. There are two characteristics that the people mention when they hear the system, no matter what the recording is. Number one, they say that it is the first time they have actually felt like the performers were in the room. Not that we were there, but they were here. Hold on, I've got Al back on the line.
John just showed up. It's a picture of him, but there's no actual.
See it again?
Oh, there it
Okay,
is.
there we
It's
go.
back.
We're back.
Okay.
Just happened
Can
to
you
drop
can you move the camera just slightly to the right? The right
Yeah.
edge is cut off.
Yeah.
The other way. The other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I can move it from here, David. Yeah.
Yeah. You did it.
Right there.
Stop. Perfect.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. Sorry.
All right. No, that's okay. That's okay. Let me.
Did the library tell you to be quiet or something?
No. Oh, look,
They came in and they were blinking at us. I couldn't figure it out.
right. Now, what I'll do is I'll go back and you tell me when was the last
No,
time
we
you
saw that. We saw that. We saw the next
saw
one.
that?
Yeah,
This one?
Yeah, the next one.
So we were on this one when it dropped out?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's good.
great. All right. So which attribute did I get to before it dropped out? Or would you like me
Nothing.
to start from number one again?
Yes, nothing on this slide when we lost you before you started the slide.
Okay. All right. Let's start. All right. So the attributes.
Tinkly bits sounds something very British.
Yes, it probably is. A bit how we say tinnitus, but yes, or tinnitus, it's fine. Yeah, so the attributes are in order of precedence. So our standards include these attributes as how you would set up the rating system to determine the performance of any given sound system. So the number one attribute, absolutely in order of precedence, is the intelligibility and voice articulation. So this is how the sounds are clear and distinct. The way that I've laid this particular slide out is representing how we hear sound in the natural world and how that corresponds to the attribute that we're proposing to address that particular feature. So in nature, we hear sounds clear and distinct. So in the attribute, this is referred to as the intelligibility and voice articulation. So everything in that voice range. And apologise to the guys in the room that have to hear me say this again. But it includes obviously not just the sounds of the human voice, but all of those instruments and all of the sounds within that general range. The second attribute is the sound energy being consistent at all levels. We refer this to spectral energy balance. So this basically means that as you increase or decrease the volume, all of the frequency ranges stay consistent with each other. It's cohesive. You're not getting bass notes dropping out, or you're not hearing an overemphasis of the upper mids. All of that is the same in the same way that it would be if the world around you just started to get quieter. Then to the tinkly bits. The goosebumps, the goose pimples, the goose, what would be the American?
Yeah, goosebumps.
Goosebumps? Right, lovely. This is what we refer to as the harmonic detail, of course. So I did go into an explanation that I think there might be one person here who may still be able to hear above 15,000 hertz.
You really
well
think
done,
so?
well done. Yeah, I am apparently an anomaly at my age. I'm still up to about 15, but maybe that was my wishful thinking. I'm not sure. But the proposition here also is that even if on, like on a test, it shows that we're not hearing those frequencies, it doesn't mean that the brain isn't registering them. It still has an impact on us. It has an impact on us emotionally. It has an impact on us with the essence of how we experience the music. And so much of that essence and that brightness and that life is in that upper harmonic region. So it's making sure that with a sound system design, that you are factoring in that harmonic range into what you're able to reproduce. The next one is all of those low sounds being clear and distinct. In the attributes, this relates to bass discernment, what we refer to as bass discernment. All of those notes individually, every twang of the bass guitar or double bass, you are hearing that independently of each other. You are not just hearing a big warbled, waffly drone of a sound. Now, as I mentioned before, acoustics obviously will play a part in that. This isn't accounting for the acoustic aspect of it, but it's how you eliminate that problem from the system to start with. So by the time the sound is in your room, you don't have a double impact from that. And therefore, a lot of that, distortion that's created from that. And then the directivity control, which is all about the natural world is stereo. For those of us that do still have the ability to hear with two ears, we experience the natural world in stereo. So directivity control is all about how you enable a system to, or that stereo sweet spot to be broadened. Now, that's not to say that our designs aren't useful for Dolby Atmos. That's a completely other different conversation. But in general listening, what you would want to replicate in a normal environment is for that stereo imaging to be as broad as you can possibly get it. And that's our final attribute in our series of attributes there. So as I mentioned, there's a lot more information on about these on the website as well. And of course, I'll be more than happy to answer questions to the best of my ability. I do have the caveat that certain technical questions I may have to refer back to my father, but I'll be more than happy to pass those on and let him engage with you all directly as well.
Neil, since we hear also with our brain, for example, reflection, introduce another kind of sound.
Well, look, I suppose the statement that we would make is taking from the quote, I think it was George Lucas, who said, sound is 50% of the cinema experience. Acoustics is 50% of the audio experience. So definitely acoustics play a part, and ideally, all sound systems would be heard in a complete open far-field environment where you have
Anechoic chamber.
or replicated in an anechoic chamber. Exactly. Yes. Ideally.
We're getting more in trouble here.
Yeah.
As I said in my article, what we need is a stereo theory, which means how do you present all the sounds in the natural way that they come in real life. What you do is you first ask yourself, what is audible? And then you go through all of the spatial, spectral, and temporal characteristics of live music or live sound anywhere. Like Phaenelagh, do you find any problem with the accuracy of microphones?
So we focus on the actual sound system design rather than necessarily concerning ourselves with the process or the recording chain at this point. The reason that I say that is because I think that it's not for us to determine whether or not there are issues with those components necessarily. For us, the focus...
I would like to suggest that in order to get this presentation through, we go through the presentation, save your questions, and then we can have a Q&A at the end. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. I thought she asked for questions at the end.
Keep going.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, lovely. All right. So how do you make a neutral sound system? So this is a very, very simplified explanation. And, like hours and hours and hours could be spent going into a lot more explanations of this and much more deeper dives. But just in a very rudimentary sense, at a very high level, step one, the first thing you absolutely have to do is divide the audio signal into 4 separate frequency ranges. And I'll just take a sidestep here quickly. My hope was that I would have been able to demonstrate in person here exactly why this is the case. So my full demonstration that unfortunately I wasn't able to bring today, which is perfectly okay. I have brought one system that hopefully will demonstrate this to those who are able to be here today. And later down the track, we can organise other demonstrations at another time. But the intention is to be able to demonstrate exactly why that is the case. And I'll be able to do that for anybody that is here in the room afterwards. This is pretty much the most fundamental point of how you are able to achieve a neutral sound system. Step 2 is you have to amplify each frequency range independently. So this is basically what we're getting into, the active management situation. Step 3, you need to direct each independently amplified frequency range to the individual drivers. Now, once you get to that point, you're obviously into the nuance of the quality of the speaker drivers, the type of components, which components you would use for which particular applications, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where the engineering know-how and the scientific and engineering knowledge comes into it, and also the fundamental knowledge of the first principles of music and physics and sound. And what enables you to pull that together with the components is where really that level of expertise has to come in. But it's got to be approached from multiple sides to get that to work and know exactly what kind of components you need and what you need out of those components. Because again, otherwise you just end up back in that cycle of confusion. So, 4-way active management. This ties back to that first requirement to achieve neutrality, the 4-way active. Now, I thought it would be useful if I take a minute to define what we mean by 4-way active, and particularly 4-way active management. because I have discovered there is confusion about this out there in the world. Definitely there is confusion about this. Different people seem to have different ideas of what the active and way, etc., mean in relation to each other, in relation to crossovers and amplifiers and etc. So I will explain what we mean by it, and that will hopefully then help you understand the principle of what this is about. So four-way active management is the design function of the loudspeaker system where the signal is divided into those four separate and dedicated registers by an electronic crossover prior to being sent to the amplifiers. That can apply to a two-way system, a three-way system, and a four-way system. The system that I have here today is a three-way, four-way active managed. Now, I have come across a few people that find that this breaks their brains a bit. It broke my brain when I was learning about it, when my father first demonstrated this, how we achieved it. I've learned to accept it now, that it is real. It does happen. It has happened. We can demonstrate it, and you can achieve a sound quality equivalent to that of a fully four-way active system. Now, by fully four-way active, I am referring to the four-way, an actual four-way system with four-way active management. So a four-way crossover, four amplifiers, at least four amplifiers, and at least four speakers of a different kind. So just clarifying also on the way, our understanding of the way is the number of different type of speaker. So you may have 5 speakers in a box, but it's four-way because 2 of those speakers are the same type of speaker, basically doing the same function or within that same, dealing with that same frequency range. Yeah. So four-way active and how this achieves transparency. So a transparent neutral sound system is one that has no sound of its own. That's the principle of it. It is devoid of coloration and distortion, giving the listener access to the fully dynamic, clear and accurate sound and music. To achieve that, the system must be four-way active managed without dividing the frequency range into 4 separate bands via an electronic crossover. You cannot achieve that full fidelity and clarity. And this is what we are basically saying we can demonstrate. It's only when you adhere to those first principles of how sound and music behave in the natural world that neutrality and transparency is achieved. So the result of what we're aiming for, audio standards will give us the seamless integration. That seamless integration will give us the infinite canvas that will inspire the next renaissance of music creativity. The last renaissance of music creativity arguably is rock and roll, but I actually think it's blues because rock and roll is based on blues. So we haven't actually really had a true renaissance of music creativity in over 100 years. This will reinvigorate and expand all entertainment and amplified sound industries. And the impact will be the audio equivalent of what LCD and OLED technology has had on the world. Trillions of dollars of revenue generated, complete overhaul of industries, complete new inspiration of whole new art forms. The laptop we're all looking at, the phones that we use, none of that existed without LCD technology. You don't see CRT monitors anymore. For every CRT monitor, there's probably 10 to 20 LCD OLED screens now, if not more. They're ubiquitous, and it has completely changed the way we interact with the visual arts, with all the visual mediums, all forms of graphic, all mediums of graphics. And arguably, it's actually inspired other technologies as well. We see the establishment of standards as being able to have the same effect from an audio perspective. But it requires a collective will and active cooperation across all areas of audio and music industries. Hence the mission. Hence the mission. And yes, full demonstrations are essential to get a proper sense of how that translates with seamless integration. So even with the one system that I have here today, that will hopefully, for those that are in the room, will enable you to get a sense of what it is that we're able to achieve through the four-way active management, but to understand how that translates through into seamless integration requires multiple of our systems. So that's something that I would be enthused to have demonstrations for at another time. So for anybody that is interested, we may be able to organise that in the future. Yeah, but for today, at the close maybe of the meeting for the guys online, definitely an opportunity to experience that here. As loud as we're allowed to get it in this room. But, you know, loudness isn't everything, as I have pointed out. You should still be able to hear it cohesively because our spectral energy balance is able to be demonstrated on this. So you don't necessarily need the volume, the high decibels to get a sense of that.
Live demonstrations.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Should we bring the camera back round to the room? I think that, does that?
Yep.
Yep,
We see you
beautiful.
fine.
Yeah, great. Okay, questions?
Yes. Phaenelagh, you say the speaker that you have in there is good for demonstrating your idea?
Yes, yes. Well, all of our
Okay.
systems are, yes. Everything we
Because
have produced is four-way active managed or fully four-way active.
Okay, so how does that make it accurate? Frequency response only?
It's not just about frequency response. It's about how all of those attributes of the standards are addressed. And
What is the
how that is achieved in the way that the system is designed, there is a lot of nuance behind it. But the very high level explanation is you have to start with the four-way active crossover network. You must be separating those frequency bands out so that you are able to get that clear separation, and you're not, the first thing it does is it eliminates intermodulation distortion. That's the first thing it does.
What is the radiation pattern of the speaker?
I don't understand. I'm not familiar with that terminology in relation to what we do.
Well, then how do you know that spatial characteristics of the sound coming out of it are going to be the same as the live sound that was recorded?
But now the radiation pattern is another way to say polar response.
The what, sorry?
Radiation pattern is another way to say polar response.
Well, the polar response I would expect would change depending on the decibel level of what you're
Should not
playing as well.
should not change.
Right.
The polar response is a function of the drivers and the housing.
That would be in the way that we would choose the drivers that we use.
All right.
I would expect.
If I could continue my short questions. The spectral, you say
actually,
you've solved.
Can I just go back just to add to that question? I think I've got maybe a slightly better way of adding to that question. The reality is we can't, and this is the problem we're trying to address. Right now, we can't prove that at all because of that circle of confusion. That is the fundamental problem. It's one thing to say that what we do, gives you transparent sound, but that only has meaning in relation to what we think that artist intended at this point in time. What the standards are proposing is to enable that to be drawn into the chain right from the very beginning, so that if we then have artists that are creating on systems built with these standards, and they're recording through a monitoring system built to these standards, then you would be able to get that surety that what you're hearing on any other system is accurate to what was intended. Right now, all we can say is that what we experience through it is only what is there in the recording and nothing more. So we're eliminating any other aspect of the system you're listening to, but we cannot impact the influence of the system it was recorded on, or the components that were used when the recording was done, or the performance was made.
Let me simplify it down to my circle of confusion question. You say that we can have perfectly accurate microphones, right?
I'm not saying that. That's
I don't think there's any.
I'm saying.
I don't think there's any big problems with the electronics of our sound recording and reproduction systems. We can have absolutely flat frequency response in our speakers and absolutely perfect microphones. And that's the reason that I got into recording, to get inside the circle of confusion and find out what he's talking about. And I find that it's not anything to do with the accuracy of the equipment. It's the acoustics of the entire problem. And you've got to solve the characteristics that we can hear, which is spatial, spectral, and temporal. And that requires a theory of stereo reproduction that tries to duplicate the acoustic problem, which is basically impossible because we're trying to run the signal through two different acoustic spaces. Okay, anyway, we're trying to record something in a large acoustic space, concert hall, and then bring it home and play it in a small playback room with speakers that have no particular spatial characteristics that are the same as the original. In other words, they shove all the sound straight ahead out of the front of the speaker. And that's about the opposite of the way the original acoustic space was.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't, it just can't be done. And it has nothing to do with the accuracy of any particular components, speakers or otherwise. So what we need is a stereo theory that takes all of that into account. I wrote a whole article about it, and we talked about it already. And I'll shut up now.
There's another facet to this as well, and that is the fact that I don't hear the same thing you do. Okay? My hearing is psychoacoustically different from yours.
No, it is not.
Well, my earlobes are differently shaped than yours. My head is different size than yours. So what I hear is what I perceive as hearing is subjectively different because we're all different in that respect. Okay?
The brain has taken all of that into account throughout all of your life. We all hear the same sound.
Yes, but we hear it differently.
We might individually hear the same sound individually. Like what we hear is what we hear. So if you hear that in a concert, then you hear it in another system, then you would know the reference of what you heard before.
We go to the Boston Symphony. We all hear the same symphony, and that's how acousticians design concert halls. And that's what Floyd said in his latest book, and in all of his books, actually, that most people hear the same. If you put a speaker test in front of a bunch of different groups, they will all come to the same speakers as the best. Everybody know what I mean by that one?
I disagree that that's a little bit too short-sighted. It goes way beyond frequency response. Phaenelagh, I'm going to send you some articles I've written over the years. I agree with you that you must have, in my opinion, you must have multi-amps, multiple channels. You have to have significant room treatments. If you look behind me, my room is very heavily treated. You have to be careful about many things, phase, time, things that you
Absolutely.
can control much better when you
Yep.
have a separate amplifier for each channel and you have the appropriate digital signal processing.
Yep.
My review of the Danville DSP Nexus, the 8-channel processor I'm using, is in the November and December issues of Audio Express. I'll send you copies of that also. But
Thank you.
what you are talking about is what I call texture. In other words, if you look at a coat that someone is wearing and you don't have good resolution, you may see the major components. But as your resolution gets better, you can see the fabric, the warp and the weft of the actual fabric. The same thing holds true in audio. I'm not going to go through all the things, they're all in the articles. But the only thing that I think that I look at it a little bit differently than you do, I also have a 4-way system, but I don't have bass, lower mid, upper mid, and treble. I have bass, mid, and treble, and I have a channel for distributed subs. Because if you're in a room, once you get room modes, the peaks you can do electronically, but the suck outs, the voids you cannot do electronically. The more energy you put into at a given frequency that has a suck out in the speakers, the more reflection you're going to get in a room, which cancels it. So the 4th channel is the distributed subwoofers, and they essentially modify the Schroeder frequency of the room, and they can fill in by differential placement of the drivers in the room. They can then get the bass even. In my particular room, at the prime listening position from about 18 hertz to 80 hertz, it's about 1.5 plus or minus 1.5 dB at the listening position at those frequencies. And you cannot do that without distributed subs.
Right. Well, I certainly can't comment on that directly. What I will say is we definitely agree that acoustics is a big part of the problem. Part of my mission anyway is to work, to aim for acoustics everywhere to be improved, for architecture in particular to start addressing the way that sound is managed in the spaces that we inhabit. It's a big issue that I think we for some reason we've taken our hearing for granted for way too long, and a lot more attention needs to be brought to how sound impacts us in multiple ways. And that's not just through sound systems, that's just how we interact in any room and environment. I mean, just the acoustics in here is impacting, could impact the way that we're experiencing each other and whether or not we get tired or frustrated or, how it affects our moods and things like that. Definitely acoustics is an element of it. We, however, focus, even though we do acoustic installations as part of our, as part of what we do with installations within Australian venues, our focus very much is on making sure that the hardware is performing to the optimal standard. Now, we appreciate that there's a lot of nuance in all sorts of things and debates about all sorts of ways that things can work. The best thing that I can do is just, and I can talk for hours on this, or debates can happen for hours. It all comes down to being able to hear it. And that's why I think that being able to demonstrate what we've achieved with the seamless integration will speak for itself.
Quick question. Do you want me to send the link to you to your personal email or to admin?
Oh, either one is fine. Thank you.
Okay, I'll get that off to you.
And look, my father is definitely more because he is the designer, so he is the engineer in the family, and so a lot of this would be why some of the terminology I'm not 100% familiar with, and it's probably also because my life has been focused on what we do more so than necessarily the I suppose one way of putting it is the rabbit holes that I know audio can definitely take you down. But yeah, if there's those particular points, I will also share them with my father and get him across that as well. And he'd be
Great.
more than happy to take questions also. Yeah.
Put that email somewhere in the below.
Put it in the chat,
Yeah, and
the links.
yeah, because I know
we might be interested too.
yeah, my email address can be a bit challenging, so it's either Phaenelagh@Lenard Audio or admin@Lenard Audio. We'll send around a copy of the slide deck as well, and the details will be in there also, and hopefully in the meeting notes. Yeah.
Do you have any better explanation of how you get 4 amplifiers into 3 speakers?
Yeah.
The best way is to show you. That's the best way to do that. Yeah. How that works. Yeah.
The mid-range driver, I can look like a set of links.
That's actually the upper, that's the horn, actually. Or upper mid. Not necessarily intentionally, that is. So this particular set of speakers that I've got here are our near-field monitors. So they're designed very specifically for near-field listening. So they do have a 1-inch compression driver. The lips are there to enable that in very accurate listening in a particular area. But when you hear them, they'll make sense. Yeah. So this system is the only one at the moment that has limitations on the directivity because it is specifically designed for near-field listening. So there were features added to this one that you're not going to get that same broadened dynamic field that you will with all of our other systems. I should also mention that this system is DSP. It's digital and DSP.
What's your crossover frequency for your woofer? No.
This one, oh, geez, you're testing my exact memory on this one. This one on the woofer will either be, this one I think is actually 90 on this one. It's either 60 or 90. Yeah. Normally, as a baseline principle, and you'll see this on our website, the baseline principle, because every system you design, there's some nuance. And a lot of that nuance is based on the components that we've chosen to use for that particular design. And that may change if the component changes out. Like if we find a driver that has a flatter response at a frequency range a bit over or above, we might tweak that crossover point to get, the optimum range out of those particular drivers. But as a general rule, it tends to be 60, 600 and 6K as a, broad rule that we break all the time. But if you sort of stick with that principle, then anything that you're tweaking is just on behalf of those components that you're using. And I should point out as well that we use generic components.
What do you mean by that?
You don't manufacture anything?
We don't manufacture drivers, and we definitely don't manufacture the DSPs. But the speaker drivers as well, they're all generic. But a lot of that comes from the fact that we spend a lot of time in Asia and we know things.
Any components at all?
Oh, yeah, we do have some. Yes, definitely. And so as an example, this particular system that's here in the room now, that horn was designed by one of our colleagues, a person that we've collaborated on for decades now. So the shape of it is designed by us within our team. And quite often we will ask suppliers to make speakers to certain specifications. Yeah.
Did you demonstrate this to the people in the room?
Not yet. Not yet. That's coming up.
Do you have US dealers?
Do I have what, sorry?
US dealers?
No, not yet. We are not yet in production. Full-on production here. We've had small-scale production in Australia. I'm working to establish production here at the moment. So I'm currently in discussions with some people down around the DC area. But yes, we
So
are.
you're going to use your design and build it in the US?
Yes, as a starting point. Yeah. Yeah. It's just like I was saying before, we are very good at offshoring, which means in Australia, you can't get anything made in Australia anymore. Even our prototypes, we're struggling to get prototypes made in Australia now. It's that bad.
Lack of equipment, talent, or lack of product?
Lack of suppliers. And look, the talent part of it, I think, can't be ignored. We decimated our music industry as well, both from the creative side and from the exhibition side. Yeah, I mean, you can't deny this country is the centre of music in the world. Like it is just, what this country is. This country. Oh, the US. Yeah.
What about Barry Gibbs and Brothers and others?
Well, actually, they're English, so we only got to claim them for a few years. They did get their start in Australia, though. We do claim that. Oh, she's definitely Australian. Was definitely Australian. Yes. We did. I mean, a lot of people don't know Air Supply are Australian. Little River Band, AC/DC. The number of people I meet, they're like, AC/DC are Australian. Well, they formed in Australia. They're half Scottish, but most Australian bands are half Scottish. Or even the ones we take over, we take from Kiwiland, from New Zealand. They're half Scottish too. A lot of Scots in the Australian music industry. But yeah, we exported all of our good ones a long time ago, and we did so much damage. We haven't really produced any good bands for at least 20 years.
How did you actively did damage, or just never kept it up? Say did damage.
Well, that is what I will do is I'll leave the answer to that to all of the YouTube channels that have discussing this topic. When you've got the US political channels that talk about all of the things that go wrong here, and the ones in Europe, and then there's the ones in Australia, what we did wrong, where we went wrong. And there's a lot about that. And mostly it's driven by gambling in Australia. We have more gambling outlets and a bigger problem with gambling. We spend more money per capita on gambling than any other country in the world. We are a gambling obsessed society. And
we're catching it.
oh yeah,
Sports gambling.
Yeah, very much from the sports in particular. Yeah. Well, the platforms of the sports gambling that you're developing here now came from Australia.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I thought Australia was a country of potential. You're the size of the US with 1/10 the population, and
exactly. Yeah. But we have the potential, like, the innovation of what's enabled us to continue over all of these years, but we don't have the mechanisms to expand on that. So we really have to move out of the country, Just ask all of our actors. Half of Hollywood is Australian as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Where you use electronic components. Capacitors, resistors. Do you use any audiophile type parts, or do you use just industrial parts?
Not what we would necessarily refer to as audiophile. I suppose that might depend on what that would mean necessarily. But when we've made our analog systems, we're just using components that, like, we design the circuit boards, and we will have those made. We might use generic chips for the amplifiers and so on. But, I'm just trying, the name of the gentleman, his surname's Weiner, I think.
Ethan Weiner?
Ethan Weiner. I actually had a conversation with him recently. Let's just say that he and my father are very much on the same page.
Okay. Are your products in the pro market or aimed at the pro market, whatever? Or do you, for example, do you do vinyl? Do you have
Right.
phone preamps and that kind of stuff that more average, normal, whatever people do?
Right. So actually to one good point, thank you for raising that, something I didn't mention before. We are unique in two particular ways. One is we appear to be, and this is from what I've been able to discern so far, if there's new information out there, I'm more than happy to hear it. But what I understand is, firstly, we are the only audio company that does design fully four-way active systems across our entire range and does it as our baseline. Our reference systems are fully four-way active. It's only in the more recent years that we've been able to crack that. How do you get a three-way system, four-way active managed? And the other thing that we are unique with is we are the only single audio brand that designs across the entire spectrum, from the studio monitoring all the way up to the largest scale concert PAs, cinema systems, and everything in between. So everything that we do applies to every application. As far as a sound system is concerned, like what you would do with an actual sound system. We haven't delved into, like we in the very early days, our origins were with guitar amps. We definitely want to get back into that, into the instrument amp world. We don't see any reason for us, as we are now, to be designing things like preamps. I think my dad tinkered with a turntable many, many years ago, but, you know, you need a level of infrastructure with that, or you know, to be VPI with that to really, and you know, I'm going to leave VPI to do what VPI do.
Yeah,
you know, Matt's a good friend of mine, so I certainly don't want to delve too much into what he's doing. But the other suppliers in that area, it's you know, there's people that are experts in those areas that would be out of our bounds to try and delve into. Preamps, I think, are one of those things that if we develop a market enough under our brand, then would we supply preamps with that? It would probably make sense maybe to do that. But it wouldn't be something that we would think we're going to improve necessarily on a preamp design in comparison to anybody else. You know. Oh, and the other thing that we do, everything we do is integrated.
what's that mean?
If fully integrated.
It's all in one box.
All in one box.
Gotcha.
Now, the only difference will be installations where we might use rack mount amps as an example. So there will be some applications, or our systems where we have the valve towers. Like you'll see on our website, systems with the valve towers. That's the ultra high end of the domestic market. And of course, those amplifier stacks will be separate. But we also supply those with a contained solid state amplifier. So as valves continually pop, you've always got a system functioning. You know, while you're waiting for the order of your valves from wherever they're coming from, you can still have the system playing. So that side, they're always integrated as well. The valve amps are an addendum. They're not the feature of the system.
Yeah. Anything in Sydney Opera House?
Oh, look, yeah, there was early conversation early on, but this is those kinds of, that world is from that day, you know, maybe circle back to that conversation of the influence of mafia elements or cronyism, and, you know, you're dealing with the kind of contracts you've got to get through crony arrangements and, you know, et cetera, et cetera.
Does the Sydney Opera House have amplification, speakers, and all that?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
They just got this.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh no, I just mean in the way that the industry works in Australia is the suppliers into that market are part of an infrastructure. That infrastructure was established at the time that we were pushed out.
yeah.
So the big players in the industry in that time were set up, and because it's such a small market, it's not something that enables a lot of competition. So there's like basically one or two suppliers that you would go to. If you were the Opera House, who would you go to if you wanted to revamp the sound system? You would start in one place. And there'd be a lot of pressure for you politically to do that. Yeah. That can change. That will change. You know, I think that the world of that era is on its way out, is my
Hopefully,
hope.
should have.
There's pressure to use.
Not, yeah. You would think.
Make Australia great again.
Yeah.
Is there pressure to use the?
Take Trump.
Yeah.
Is,
We got rid of our mini version already, so it's all right.
is there pressure to use one supplier for the revamping the Opera House because of cronyism or because there's only one supplier?
Well, they're sort of the same thing, and the supplier wouldn't necessarily be the brand. The supplier would be the distributor, not the brand. So we have a cultural feature in Australia that you definitely don't have here. Thank God. It's, you know, you wouldn't be this country if you did have this feature, and that's what we refer to as the tall poppy syndrome.
Say it again.
Tall poppy syndrome.
Tall.
Poppy. So you know the poppy flower?
Oh, poppy.
Yeah. So the tall poppy syndrome is the poppy that grows above the rest gets chopped off. So if you stand out, you get chopped off. You've got to go overseas. So as an example, and pardon my Australian here, but Rupert Murdoch is a dickhead. I mean, he's a dickhead because he's a dickhead, but he's a dickhead because he's Australian. He's a successful Australian. So if he's successful and Australian, he's automatically a dickhead. Right. But more so, it's like in our culture, the attitude isn't, oh, there's a successful Australian. Like Atlassian software is Australian developed, right? Australian, and they're still based, right? Most Australians would go dickheads for no reason, you know. They
Southern.
we are the most south you can get.
So you're saying
Other than Chile. Yeah.
success is not admired?
No. Not in and of itself. Not in and of itself. Yeah. We like to, as we say, pull people down a peg or two. So, you know, like Hugh Jackman as an example, I mean, the good side of it is Hugh Jackman as an example can walk around his local shopping mall, like I'd seen him because it was my local shopping mall, and people would just go, hey mate, how you doing? How you going? You know, and just say hello and leave him alone. Like that's because he's just a bloke, you know, he's just another, you know. No, we have far less of it. It's not non-existent. It's just far less of it. Yeah.
So you don't have hero worship?
A lot of what, sorry?
We have tabloids.
Yeah, tabloids. Yeah, we do it in a different way, which, and you might want me to leave the room after I tell you this. We did Fox News first. So we don't do the gossip mags or the tabloids like they do in the UK, as an example, to that extent. But he built the format of what Fox News is from how that was first established in the Australian market. So we definitely have that element without it necessarily being celebrity gossip in the same way as here. There will never be an Australian Kardashian. Yeah.
I have a question about the Sydney Opera House. By comparison, the Boston Symphony occasionally has speakers hung, but they never use them, certainly for classical stuff, which is what I go to there.
Yep.
Does the Sydney reinforce classical performances with speakers?
As far as I'm aware, yes. To
Ooh.
varying degrees, as far as I'm aware. Yeah,
Wow.
which we would think is nuts.
Heresy.
I agree.
I mean,
Yeah, it's just-
I go for the live.
Hall sound.
Yeah. Well,
How
yeah,
are the
my-
acoustics of the how are the acoustics of your symphony hall?
of the Opera House.
Yes.
Melburnians would argue that the Melbourne Arts Centre has much better acoustics than the Opera House. The Opera House was designed more for its look than it was for its function.
The outside is certainly striking. Huh?
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I've
But-
never been, unfortunately.
But my understanding is on the scale of how sound halls function, it's not rated
Yeah.
necessarily in the world of, musicals.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not horrible.
Necessarily.
I've heard it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, you went there when you were there. Oh, nice. Yeah. The couple of times I've been in it, and I must admit, I then went, yeah, I don't need to inflict myself with this too much. But I am a bit fussy.
So I've gathered that Leonard Audio is pro-focused.
We are
You don't play so much in the consumer area.
not yet, but we definitely, like, our goal is to be there, right? So yes, our origins are professional. Our primary expertise, as in, but I mean, it does cross over, so I won't necessarily say that. It is, yeah, like our home base is professional.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
And
then expanded from that. So everything else that we've developed has been developed from the principle of what you would want to experience from a live, from that live performance.
So you still cover the full scale of pro, which for me means performance.
Yes.
Like you still do large sound systems for big performances.
Yes.
All the way down to personal
Studio monitoring. Yes. Yeah. And we have concept designs for two-way, four-way active and smaller bookshelf. So all of the systems that we have made are adaptable into varying kinds of application. So it's just a matter of adjusting a few things, and then, it can be applied in multiple applications. Yeah. Multiple environments.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have a two-part question. Are you using Class D amplification?
In this one, yes.
Or identical amplifiers, or is each amplifier tailored for each frequency?
No, these are for identical amplifiers in these ones. Yeah, so it's just a 4-channel. I think these ones are Pascal blocks in these ones. Yeah, this particular one has all DSP amplification. The all DSP, but they use Pascal amps. Yeah, but the DSP elements are ubiquitous now, and the intention is that we would end up, just designing our own and our own software interfaces for them. But, there's a lot more people doing a lot more exciting things with DSP than just in the audio world. So we'll certainly leave the experts to that. However, what we have found with DSP, some of the limitations that we're finding, and they're slowly improving, but we definitely want to be working with the industry to move this forward faster, is things like that noise floor. Like there is still, that tiny bit of noise within the DSP systems. And there's a couple of other features with them that we're hoping as we go through new iterations and new generations of what they're doing, that they'll be able to make those improvements, but they need the industry driving that. The audio industry so far has not pushed the DSP makers past a certain point. It's getting driven more through the car audio than it is through home hi-fi or the audiophile world. The vast, probably I would guess at 85% of DSP in audio is in auto.
Interesting.
But it's there's a lot happening there, but how that translates into hi-fi is just a matter of adapting what that is. You know, you're doing very different things in a car system, and they all tend to be unique. Somebody's building it, you know, for themselves, you know, for what they want. But yeah, there hasn't yet been a drive. We want to push that, and we do have companies that we do want to work with us at that level.
Now, what is the name of the speakers we have here? And
Oh,
will you
look.
describe them and demonstrate?
Yes, I will.
Time.
We came up with this one was a really hard name. We spent a long time agonizing over the name to call these the monitors.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I am sad to say, we just so far we just call these near field monitors or the monitors and we have a mastering system that it was an even more imaginative name. We call that the master.
Yeah.
So when you look at our website, you will see those ones in there under the M class ones, the near field monitor and the master system. But yes, that's what this one is to demonstrate today.
Cost?
We look, we don't have them in production for sale at the moment. What I can tell you, though, is what we are aiming, when we do have them in production, what we want to aim to have them in the market as or around. We want to get all of our systems, we want to be able to price for them to be accessible. So the near field monitors, we are aiming for them to be available between probably $5,000 and $8,000. Per pair, yes. Yeah, all my pricing in this grade is per pair. The master systems we're expecting to be at about 25. Some of the other systems, like the Saraband system and the Sonata system, the Saraband system would be probably around 15, and the Sonata system we're aiming to be able to provide for about 8 to 10. Like once we get production established, and obviously dealing with all of the unknowns in the world at the moment, we'll have a better grasp of that. But we're fairly comfortable knowing that we should be able to get them into the market around that area. And then the intention is that we're designing other systems that are going to be much more accessible. We also design right up through to the $500,000 system if you want. Like if you want to commission us to make a $500,000 system, we will do that. No problem. Our Opal range of systems, which is more of the custom design or that, you know, fully four-way active, they're our reference, where they were the reference of which the standards were developed against and for, so in both directions. And they would really start at about 50, 60 upwards, depending on what you want. Like the system on our website that's referred to as the Canberra Opals, they would sit about the 250 range for a system of that. They're the ones with the 27-inch bass speakers. But we're fairly confident now. It does look overkill, and I should point out it does look overkill, but our client, who has become a very dear friend, he was chasing a dream. So he was in the audiophile world for a long time, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, came across us, and his brief to us was, talking about sound quality in Australia, the Sydney Town Hall is actually renowned for the pipe organ in the town hall. So it is internationally renowned for the pipe organ there. He had experienced that as a young child, and that was his inspiration. You know, we all have that moment of what we heard, and we spend the rest of our lives chasing that experience. For him, that was that experience in that Sydney Town Hall, and nothing he could do was getting him anywhere close to that until he met us. And of course, the first thing my dad said is, if you're going to do this, like, because in sound size does matter, right? You know, I'm sorry to say it does, because you know, radiating area does matter when you are going for those deep notes. You know, sorry, both, but it matters. You had to go for the 27-inch bass speakers, and there are 4 of them. There's 2 per side. You know, in order to properly replicate those deep bass notes. And it achieved it.
What was the name of the performance venue in Melbourne you recommended as better acoustics than the Opera House?
The Melbourne the Victorian Arts Centre.
Victorian Arts Centre, okay.
Victorian Arts Centre. Sorry. Victorian. as opposed to Victoria, because in the state of Victoria.
In the city of Melbourne.
In the city of Melbourne, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But, that could just be the Melbourne-Sydney rivalry. But I don't doubt that. I don't deny them that, actually.
You mentioned the basic
Mhm.
So if there is a supercomputer error, how high does it go?
This one, you should actually be able to hear everything that it will reproduce. The rest of us won't. This one, we are getting up to about 18, 19 in this one. It's a ribbon tweeter, but we have boosted. One of the advantages, obviously, of DSP gives you a bit of ability. I have a policy, and again, forgive my Australian terminology here, but don't fuck with the signal. Is my motto in life. DSP, I think it's very tempting, very, very, very tempting to do PEQ on the incoming signal before you address the just general crossovers. And it's easy to think that you're doing that to adjust for the problems with the speaker drivers, which is what a lot of people are using DSP for. Oh, anything's solvable with DSP. You can have a shit speaker and you just use DSP and it's solvable. And it's like, well, yeah, but then you're just going around in circles, and all of the time and effort we've spent on this, we just find we come back to the principle of you've got to have the components that are going to provide the best quality performance in the first place. You need speakers of good build quality. You need speakers of good design quality. Now, you don't have to be spending hundreds or thousands of dollars on those speaker driver components. You can find that quality in generic brands at quite, for the most part, at very, very low cost, comparatively low cost. Like where you might spend, say, $5,000 on a bullet tweeter, like a high-end bullet tweeter, we are finding you could spend $200 on a bullet tweeter that will perform at the same level. It's the same thing as the factories in China that produce the Gucci bags. They're producing the rip-offs as well. It's just how it works in Asia.
That's the third shift operation in many Chinese factories.
Yeah.
First and second shift, they work for you. Third shift, they work for themselves using your design.
Right.
Back in the day in the audio field, they used to refer to it as PM distortion, profit margin.
Yeah. And we found in companies we've dealt with in Asia that when they're designing speakers, like their clients will come in and say they want a particular sound. And they're literally saying, I want the sound of this audiophile brand, and I want you to produce that for peanuts, for pennies. And, we don't agree with that principle because we're just doing everybody harm when we're driving costs down too much. It doesn't work. It ultimately will fail. You've got to make sure that you're getting the quality at the price that actually matters and is viable and sustainable. Look, we still use, as an example, for our 15-inch reference that we use at home, it's still an old JBL. I've forgotten the 280 something. And actually the driver that we have it's like over 60 years old, and we will still use that for measurement against what we're measuring other things against. Like, there was fantastic engineers that paved the way and did the hard yards in the early days that deserve the honouring. But there's also some fantastic, innovative people out there working with materials technology and advancing things from a materials perspective that, really deserves credit as well.
You're going to be at the Capitol Audio Fest.
I was, yes.
Oh, okay. It's over.
It is. Yeah. Oh, I wasn't demonstrating there.
Oh,
I just turned up to say hello to everybody. Yes. But I'm actually going back down. I did meet some people who want to explore some ideas with us. So I'm going back down there tomorrow, actually, back down to DC tomorrow for a while. But yeah, for those of you that won't be able to hear this demonstration, and for everybody actually who would like to hear the full demonstration, where I get to prove the seamless integration, I will definitely be happy to arrange, I'm sure we can hopefully find a time. We'd need probably a venue where we can turn the music up and do have some time and some space to just play around with it. Maybe in the new year we can look at that, but that offer is definitely there.
Church place downstairs. There's nobody around. Set up building in itself, and there's plenty of room to set up on its size of the side of that library. So
It's not a great space, acoustic.
the acoustic is not good.
Yeah, if there's a lot of reverberation, yeah, maybe we can if there's another space. But otherwise, the intention also is that hopefully soon I'll also have a demonstration space in the DC area that will sort of be set up on a semi or on and off basis that I'm more than happy to communicate when that will be available, or just reach out to me individually.
Do you have any plans to be in the Philadelphia area?
Only on my way through to DC. And I think I'd bypass anyway. I don't think I'll be going near Philadelphia exactly.
The reason why I say there's a large audio group in Philadelphia, there's also another one in New Jersey.
Oh, the New Jersey guys I'm very familiar with.
Okay. Well,
yes.
the Philadelphia area audio group too. It's very
thank
active.
you. Yeah, and I will definitely reach out in due course. Yeah, the New York and New Jersey guys, they were the first audio society I came across, hence my familiarity with VPI Industries, as VPI tends to be the centre of their team where they all have their meetings. They're actually having a meeting tomorrow at VPI House, the New York crew, your counterparts in New York.
I assume that Lenard Audio is always keeping up its research into new material technologies.
Yes.
And designs and things like that.
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, are we ready to do demonstrations now?
Yep. We say goodbye to the online people.
Oh, what do you?
Yeah.
I'll keep it live.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Live,
Hey, look at Matrend. You never know what they'll hear through the through all these speakers. Just in case, I know that my contact details will be via other means, but if anybody would like one of my business cards, then please, sorry.
I also put the information up on the chat room.
Yes.
Downloaded from the website.
Wonderful. Yeah. That would be fantastic. All right. So what I will simply do here is I'm just going to play music. It's all coming through Apple. I'm not connected to the internet at the moment, so I've just got a selection in a particular playlist that's got a good range of all sorts of different genres of music that you can choose from. I will start playing a compilation that we put together for the demonstration that I normally do for the seamless integration. And then I'll let you guys just, come in and say as you like. And then just, if you do want to change the track, then my suggestion is, first of all, just look for a playlist and have a select that. They should all, the volumes should be consistent with whatever track is being played. We just need to make sure, obviously, we're not playing it too loud because we'll get knocks on the door. I've set the volume at the moment up based on what I thought was okay to be able to hear. But I'll just double check that. Now, the trick is to actually be pretty much in this chair because these are quite directional. And as you know, you can move these around a little bit as you like. And at some point, I'll describe what the control panel's for.
And when the music stops, you all sit down, right?
And the last one gets the prize.
So where's the first one? I think phase. Sound
Two currently.
just down here.
It's my father and me at the moment. Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of associates.
Yeah.
So one of the gentlemen that helps us with some of the horn designs and speaker aspects, and we have a guy that we work with that represents us for all of our installations in Australia, their new installations. Because I'm fully I'm going along. Yes, yeah. Everything that I've got here. Yeah. I should read the spells and not sitting for my strokes. So there was 60. What this is two. Yeah, two jacket bar. And we do the acoustic installations. We always try to figure it out. See? I like there's not like music. Yeah. There's a lot of education that it's, you know, very uneducated world, especially in Australia. In 3D printing.
I was gonna say, yeah, use 3D printing at work all the time. Good.
What? There's not about simply in the procedure. You can set. You've got multiple precincts. It goes up that 50. So both lines to 302 precinct. So you just take to
So those guys sitting in front of the speakers are hearing something?
So you can press it like village, but to do that.
I take my time.
Even mid-strip playing. Yeah, they're interesting. One thing quickly I will mention with these ones as well, even though, as you can see, it's a three-way system, this one has been designed so you can actually turn it into a fully four-way active system simply by plugging in an external subwoofer and just flicking a switch. And then the bass then gets directed to a different channel.
So that subwoofer is active, so.
Yes. Everything is active. Yeah. But at the moment, that frequency is going, sub-frequency is going to fault along with the volume.
Normally, I would say that's kind of unusual.
Yes.
Problem to combine power outputs. Otherwise,
Yes.
you were going to fight each other.
Well, different.
Completely different frequencies. Different frequencies, different that.
Crossover stations that move over the frequencies of others.
It works. And I can demonstrate how that works in a moment. But as everybody's listened to it, I'll then show you something that is the part that tends to break brains.
I'm awesome. So I'm awesome, but
What we should do is actually try and get the laptop in front. When everybody here has heard it, move the desk around so that the laptop's facing it, and then they actually get it. Well, it's going to be fine.
I'd be all right. I mean, if I make it sense.
They may. They may.
speak.
It's music.
Run by for yeah.
I'm standing right in front of the camera.
There's been solutions specific.
Perspective changes when you stick your head close. Probably in the library.
There's limits.
Really, push.
Which happened early. They came in twice.
I mean, you were studying it at the
And talking, just talking.
How do I feel for this?
And
The expression was, so the bird was the speaker's value, that really sounded like the speaker was all in space.
You can the individual frequencies, not the frequency, but the volume of each person.
More controls, free swings, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's giving it depth of field.
You didn't mention it, I mean, I'm guessing that's what it has.
And that scale up. The difference with these ones as opposed to the other ones is these ones that are center of the sound system gets moved back behind the speakers. With our other systems, it moves forward. So one of the things my demonstration shows is that all three speaker systems that are used, the center of the sound fields, as it goes between them, the sound sources, same position.
Lower cut.
Yeah, which tends to mess people. Like which one of those we doing anyway? And that's the same situation. That's what then if I honestly have confidence that you do what's going to be also 600 and those attributes, there's a clarity.
So that means this guy is going down 16 times.
All that's the
Chore to a
I
horseback.
get that sense.
That's not big sound. I have JBL big PA speakers, about 3 foot by 3 foot, there are 600 hertz.
So charging excuses,
That's not even full loading, yeah.
this shows it is, but they would be. You speakers, because they know what it is.
Well, those push down lots big allowed to any.
That's
what it's this. It's the era of when people are strengths of speakers.
You can't get that.
They were the ones that such decisions and like the common orders. You know, they were the ones that we are demanding audio that gives like this gives the audience more and that's what inspired my dad to get it to develop like his craft.
This is the
It's trying to bring it back to the
2 inch into 600 this. I don't know. It's a problem unless the signals are in phase. When you want to join them.
Yeah, I mean, because Walker's cheaper.
Otherwise, the 2 amps are trying to drive each other.
But are they actually, are you getting the sound?
Exactly.
It is. Like if you reach
The same signal.
30s.
But
Imagine. All you're getting is this.
everything in between.
You know, it's really same. Then it makes it very simple sound. Almost like below. I get it.
That would go.
Creative expression for certain things, but I certainly have when I go to hear live music, I have to sit and I don't want the trumpet there, and the trombone over there, or the double bass, behind me for the guitars over there. So,
Okay.
Is that?
I wasn't sure.
Oh, okay.
That's a given.
Let's just.
What the musicians intended. They're doing something that's cohesive and together. It's when they're creating in that moment together as a singular entity. That's what they want everybody to experience. What that is. That's
I assume just to remove ears.
Mm.
Because there's like actually one eye. Close to the
Yeah.
station all around.
Absolutely, which wasn't developed. Just processing for that, this around sound stuff.
For the LBS speakers, there's a check on rate.
We're just going.
They made
That's so it
processor first. But yes,
we tried this.
problem was that it's pretty
Racist. So
and Booth is going to punch that button.
It's just good picture of you.
So it comes through twice.
Good picture of you.
That's what I'm saying for about.
That works. Sign it works good.
Good enough person to see picture. But then it turned out mine did not have anything special. So the ministry found one.
next we got this from the playlist of the editor, Sweetwater. Every year he releases a playlist of songs to test certain monitors or something with, and I came across it and I was like, oh, so awesome. It's excellent. Has everyone had a chance to
Such a large group,
sit?
really hard to rationalize.
Oh, no, please do. Because after you've had, then I'm going to demonstrate something else.
Most it.
Yeah, great. No. No, feel pressure.
Here, yeah, it's fun. But me here. And Hughes been forgetting that. You got it.
We're a whole other continent unto ourselves.
Obviously, no mind out.
Ellen and my voice, Ellen Generous.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, she's Australian. Yeah.
It's generating machine learning thing.
That would make no sense. That would make no sense.
What?
All right. May I demonstrate something?
Not very big.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay, so yeah, this piece is all right. If we can get away with just a touch more volume, right?
Just lock the door.
Yeah. Okay. So
You already are.
what I'm going to do here,
We don't expect you to be ready.
right? So I've turned this one off. I currently only have the right one playing.
Go extremes within possible.
It helps if I turn the controls the opposite direction. So this control panel is simply just the gain control for each of the amplifiers. Oh,
That's the fourth amplifier.
can you hear that?
I feel it.
Yeah, I think it's because we've got the volume down so low. As you moved into it, right?
Oh, really?
Right.
Yeah.
Is the reference position like all the way up?
It depends on the music, it depends on the room, it's just trying to, and it depends on the settings in the DSP as well, so that's all programmed. That's all manageable, as you choose. There's various things you can do with it. There's some fundamental principles that you need to put in place to start with. But you know, and you thought of it as just zero being, you know, that would be not zero. But often I find with these, you tend to be more balanced, as an example, in the way that we've got the game set up in the dance week.
How would I, as a picture, get back to sitting you had where you started just
At this point, I just remember them. But that's part of the beauty of what you're able to achieve as an engineer. You know, if you were if you were a engineer mixing, the intention is that that gives you complete control over what you want from this. Now, when we go into production for, say, a standard domestic system, we wouldn't necessarily have the controls there. We would want to offer to have the controls or not. But that basically gives you control also how you're experiencing it. And what we found with all of the systems sold already is every individual with their system will find the way that they want to set that up for what they like in their environment. You know, normally depending on the style of music they tend to listen to. But if you're like me and you're constantly switching between different styles of music, my system at home, every now and then I'm going up and making adjustments. You know, if I'm watching a movie, I'll go in and make a couple of adjustments. You know, depending if I'm watching on YouTube, depending on the way the recording's coming through, you've got to adjust, you know, because you might have something that the way the sound's coming through is different. So, as in some, because you're relying on whatever was uploaded onto YouTube.
right.
So just depending on what it is you're watching, you're not getting a stable format necessarily for YouTube. So, you know, one piece of music, you might go, oh, that sounds a bit, you know, and you can just go, you can use to adjust it rather than necessarily worrying about the master.
Well, just as an aside, our research showed that you do strategy to
Oh,
find out.
optimally, yes, definitely. But you still find way that different people are uploading. Yeah. It's what because anybody can upload a music track, which I come across quite often. If some random person that's found some recording and uploaded it, and it might be like a recording of something live, and sometimes you just got to jump up and make a couple of adjustments, and then you know, normally I agree, it's normally very stable.
Yeah.
For general YouTube music, it's exactly they set a platform like without the whole they set a baseline. Yeah.
Just seemed to be nice to have maybe a button you can push to disable all of this to say, this is your reference.
Well, you can. With DSP, it does give you that option. So you've got settings with most of the DSPs that you can toggle between which setting that you want. So if you didn't want to have these, there's another option in production to not have these at all. Or to have them at the back.
Right.
For studio monitoring though, we think like engineers want them. But having said that, you know, we also have these at the moment. We've got these control panels on everything made. When we're in production, no, that might change. So this varies as to how we'll address that. Because for a general commercial market, you don't necessarily, like a domestic market, you know, the least you have to get them to do the happy and will be that big.
Yeah, too many times.
Yeah. So we come up with a range of what we would think would be good and or general, and then they can then potentially use preamp if they want to do it break. Not that we would recommend that because it's definitely better when you're adjusting those levels directly. Then literally just gain controls on those frequencies. Did anybody want to listen to anything else? Oh, I have it here.
Good.
Good. All right.
Okay, that's it. We'll
thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, Paul. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Illustrate. You have a
Of course, yes, definitely. Yeah, we have our studio, our R&D centre with the studio, and there's lots of venues you can go and hear the systems at down there as well.
Okay.
Yeah, but as soon as I have somewhere more regularly set up here, I have had, actually, it's a shame of timing, because for the last few months I've actually had all my systems set up in a studio in Dover, in New Hampshire, which would have been a fairly easy trip. But I'm about to move them all down to DC area. But you know, they move around. You know, have van, will travel, and can move speaker boxes. It's all good. I'm a roadie at heart.
How often do you get that to your?
As often as my visa dictates. So far it's been every 3 months, but I'm now on a B1 visa, which gives me 6 months at a time.
So if you overstay it, they might pay for your trip back.
Oh, and then sadly you'll never see me again. So I definitely don't want that to happen. Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you guys. Really enjoyed meeting you. Oh, good. Good. Hopefully not just for the accent.
Oh, what did the British think?
They normally like to make fun of us. You know. But that they've got enough of their own accents to contend.
I know they're,
you know.
I'm over there, but I'm sure they have
You know.
the opinion.
But we just pass that on, like paying it forward by making fun of the Kiwis. So it all evens out in the end. Now, as you can see with these systems, because they're integrated, that's literally the signal cable.
That's nice.
Into box, directly from source.
So what was your input here? Analog or?
Well, there's a DAC in here. There'd be a DAC in the DSP as well, but it works exactly the same in our analog system. So my guess is the DAC's being used out of the Mac. Now, of course, there's minimal gain on those, you know, in the Mac or your phone. They've got very, yeah, that's the freshly involver. That's
okay, guys. I guess I'm going to shut down to start packing everything up here. Anything else for?
Just one thing I noticed that kind of struck me, being an old timer in this. The
Those
Dolby
magnets
A301 system also broke things up into 4 bands.
No.
Just the power version?
Yeah. The Dolby A system broke things up into 4 bands.
Yes, they used
Yeah,
80 hertz low pass, 80 to 3 kilohertz band pass, an above 3 kilohertz high pass, and then a super high pass above 9 kilohertz.
oh right. These are illegal here.
So you want to talk to Nell or get her attention?
No, it
Yeah.
isn't necessary. It was just I put it in the chat room
Oh,
as
okay.
well.
Okay.
Thank you, John, for setting things up.
Wish it went a little better.
Hey,
If
keep it
Ken
up.
turn on.
Keep it up. You'll get more and more talented at
So
it.
what did the people in the room think about the sound?
Good point.
How many people in the room?
Honestly,
How many people in the room?
No, what
Did
did
we-
people in the room think about the sound?
I'm sorry, my hearing's going too. I heard because it's coming from the ceiling speakers that sound muffled, but
No, we just asked, did you like the speakers?
oh. Yeah, I thought they sounded good. They sounded natural to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were
Yeah,
you
Alvin said it
convinced there was
sounded
a
good.
symphony sitting there?
Well, you know what? Yeah, it sounded just like a big symphony. That's it. John Williams was in the room when I was listening to Jurassic Park. I was going to have, oh my God, what's his name? I should think before I speak.
Hans Zimmer?
Hans Zimmer, yeah. We were going to have Hans Zimmer here, but there weren't enough plugs in the room.
Okay.
All right, guys, we'll let you go.
Okay.
Nice
Bye.
seeing you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye, all. Thank you much.
Bye-bye.